Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is this?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host Mary Jones.
And I'm Dennis Lang.
Oh, honey, you got a cold, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you're playing it up a little bit.
No, this is totally how I totally sound right now.
No, you are absolutely you. Yes, you have a cold, but no, you're playing.
I have a cold, yes.
Come on, it's not COVID. You're not dying.
I tested.
You're not fine, but are you well enough to record?
I suppose.
Do it for the fans. Think of all those poor people who have to work boring jobs and they put us in their ears. Do it for them.
Okay.
Do it for the people who love you.
Ears.
Yeah. No, come on, man. Are you all right? Are you
All
okay?
right.
You promise?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, should we start the show that we started?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we have this little bit of banter because I don't have a whole lot to say about the movie we're going to watch.
Vampires, Bowies.
I think soon.
Hungry
Sarandon?
Bowies.
I don't know. Yeah, so we are going to watch a movie called The Hunger, which I think is a vampire movie starring David Bowie, Susan Sarandon, and I think a French actress. I am not entirely sure. I'm not sure if I'm thinking of like a different movie or if this is the movie I'm thinking of. Because I know there's a movie with Susan Sarandon that has vampires. I know there's a movie with David Bowie that has vampires. I don't remember if this is the same movie.
Huh.
I know it's the 80s.
Isn't there The Howling?
Yeah, see, am I thinking of The Howling?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
Let's
Do you know what
talk
The
about-
Howling is?
I don't know.
I don't know,
I
man.
haven't seen either. I saw Wolfen. So
I might be conflating several films. I do know this says David Bowie.
Yeah.
That much I am absolutely positive on, only because we're going to a movie theater to go watch this, and I remember seeing like David Bowie as like part of the promo materials. And of course, we're going to the Amber Theater where we see a lot of movies, not all the movies that we will cover on the show, but we go there pretty frequently, and we're members.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know what else to say except David Bowie is a vampire. Sure, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
That's
So our second Bowie movie?
our second Bowie movie, I guess, for the show. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence.
Yeah.
I guess we haven't done anything else.
No.
I saw Labyrinth, obviously, as a kid.
Yeah.
And, beyond that, I mean, yeah. Look, he's been in a number of films, but I'm trying to think of, like, what else we could have covered by now, and we haven't. Yeah, you're right.
We haven't done Free Jack yet.
That's Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
I do want to do Free Jack. I hear it's terrible.
There's a not kill bot, but there's some kind of killer robot thing with Gene Simmons as the bad guy.
Oh, my God. I have to see this.
Yeah.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's funny. Bowie is one of the few rock stars who I think could transition to making films. And
Yeah.
I everything I've seen him in, I've genuinely found interesting or enjoyed on some level, whether it's Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, which I think is fantastic, or, his brief bits in, Fire Walk With Me, which are strange and,
You know what'd be
terrifying.
funny?
What?
If we accidentally did like a month of movies all with like musicians as the leads.
Well, okay, how would we do it accidentally? I think
Because we had no idea about Rick Springfield.
Oh, that's true.
And
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
This kind of came up, like Amber was doing it. We're like, oh, we have to do that.
Well, that's not the only reason we wanted to do this.
It was on the list, but
Yeah. Rock stars as actors, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Bowie, yes, Bowie,
Yeah.
that works. Elvis, I don't know. I've never seen an Elvis film. I don't know if they're any good or not. Here's the thing. I hear Kid Creole?
Creole,
I hear
yeah.
that's actually a really good film, and it was directed by Michael Curtiz. Like, that's supposed to be actually an excellent movie. Whereas, a lot of the stuff he did was slop.
Yeah.
Who else? Mick Jagger. Did he? I don't know if he ever did a good film. I've seen more documentaries about the Rolling Stones than I've ever seen films starring Mick Jagger. That's true. I've seen several documentaries about the Rolling Stones, including some that are never officially released.
Huh.
It's one that I won't say on the air, but I found it kind of interesting. Yeah, Lennon showed up once or twice in films, but he wasn't really an actor.
Oh, we watched that one.
Yeah, was it How I Won the War?
Yeah.
It's it's from that period of the late 60s where they were, I mean,
Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop, yes. Okay, so here we go. Musicians who are also actors. Iggy Pop, fun to watch.
Yeah.
I always like him and stuff, whether you're talking about Dead Man or The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Obviously, Tom Waits. Tom Waits is actually great as an actor.
Yeah.
I love when he's in films. Again, the Jarmusch stuff, the Coen brothers,
Who was it in Glass Onion?
Oh,
Janelle Monáe.
Janelle Monáe, and I really like. I hope that they do more films.
Uh-huh.
It's funny. The Beatles. If you go back and watch A Hard Day's Night, they're all great in it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Ringo's obviously the best in that film. He's kind of doing a little bit of like a Buster Keaton.
Sounds like we should do Give My Regards to Broad Street.
It is on our list. I hear it is terrible. I am so curious. Paul McCartney, he's a lot of things. He doesn't strike me as an actor, and I have a feeling there's a reason why he is not the main.
I love him in Hard Day's Night, though.
He's yes, absolutely.
Partly because he seems completely uninterested. Like of all of them, he's like, ugh, the cameras.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like he's much more interesting to watch in a documentary, like in Get Back. Like I found watching his process in Get Back and like his frustrations was really interesting. But like as an actor, no, he's not an actor. The other three of them were much better in acting than he was. But yeah, I mean, other than like Bowie, there's not a lot in terms of like people who successfully bridge those worlds in terms of rock.
Maybe Frank.
No, that was where I was going to go. The only other person I could think of who was legitimately an actor was Frank Sinatra, right? Like there are multiple good Sinatra movies, and yes, you get your Rat Pack stuff, but like Man with the Golden Arm is great. The Manchurian Candidate is great. From Here to Eternity, great. He actually was a compelling actor, right?
Yeah.
Bowie is compelling on screen. He just has this weird magnetism, and boy, if you're gonna make somebody be a vampire, he's perfect. I mean, can you seriously think about it? Like, of all of his permutations, vampire is right there. The Thin White Duke. Is it maybe a little on the nose? I don't care. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
So, I don't really know who else is in this. I said Susan Sarandon at the beginning. I have no idea if that's true. I don't know where I pulled that out of. I could be confusing this with a different movie. You brought up something called The Howling, and maybe I'm thinking of The Howling. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Do you know anything about this movie?
No.
You just know it has vampires.
I think.
Well, that's, you know what? At least you're honest.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure this is a vampire film just because they're showing it at the Amber Theater in October with a bunch of like other like horror or, witchy movies, or because they showed like I Married a Witch the other night.
I think this one's supposed to be kind of sexy.
It's a vampire movie. Of course it's supposed to be sexy.
Like, I don't know if it's going to be like Morgan Le Fay.
Oh, okay. Yes. If you have not listened to our episode on Les Nymphes de Morgana.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Slave Girls of Morgana Le Fay over on Hollywood Avalon, which was, sort of halfway between a pretty interesting folk horror film and also just like a lot of softcore lesbianism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun movie. This, I have no idea. Like you say, it's supposed to be a sexy movie. I'm like, all right, bring it on. That'll be fun. It's the 80s. It's vampires. It was probably the time before people really thought about AIDS, though. I mean, or at least in terms of like anything outside of, the gay male community. So, I doubt that will be a subtext, although give it like 5 years and it would have been, because I feel like this is the early 80s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably not a subtext to this, but who knows? I could be wrong. I mean, I'm kind of curious as to like, is there a subtext to this film, as vampire films usually have, or is this just, hey, let's throw some people on screen and make it sexy?
How old do you think the vampires will be? Hundreds or dozens of years old?
That's a good question.
Fresh vampires.
I have a feeling Bowie's probably like hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
He's like an ancient vampire probably. And I'm sure whoever he's recruiting is fresh meat.
Yeah.
They have not been turned yet. Yeah.
I was just thinking Highlander feels like a vampire film. Although
it
maybe
doesn't.
maybe that's just from watching Nick Knight last time.
I have a feeling
that borrowed a lot from Highlander.
it actually did, yeah.
But I don't know, like, old.
Well,
Rich.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, vampires, you definitely have that, like, it's old, they're rich.
Yeah.
They usually have a lot of stuff around because they've been around so long. So, yeah, you're not wrong to conflate Highlander and vampires, so.
Yeah. So if it's Susan Sarandon and a French lady, that sounds like a love triangle to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, will there be a love triangle? Sure.
Okay.
If that's who's in this movie. If I'm not confusing it with some other film.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be some kind of love triangle.
Yeah, it's vampires. Like I said the last time, it's usually a love, quadrangle rhombus.
Do you think that like a current vampire is the protagonist, or a human being made into a vampire is the protagonist?
I'm going to bet it's a human being made into a vampire as the protagonist.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we're seeing it through the eyes of the vampire, which I assume is David Bowie. I assume he's the vampire, and I assume he's turning women.
Yeah. Dogs.
No, I bet there's no dogs.
Yeah.
Doesn't strike me as a very dog sort of story.
I imagine it's not not a big budget film.
No, it's probably not.
And I feel like the lower the budget, the lower the chance of dogs.
I have never thought about it, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else?
Nah, I think that's good.
All right. So let's go to the movies.
Yeah, in 24 hours.
Well, okay, fine. I don't know. Like, to the people listening, to your fans who are all rooting for you and hoping that you make it off your sickbed, to them, it won't be 24 hours. That's the magic of podcasts, the magic of editing.
Yeah, that's true.
So this movie starts with the band Bauhaus playing Bela Lugosi's Dead in a goth club. And I thought to myself as this started, oh, this is a little on the nose. And then I realized, wait, no, this is 1983. This is where the nose comes from.
Yeah, it's the nose.
This is the nose. This is it. This is the movie. I did not, like, I had no context for this. And, like, I was too late to really be a goth. Although I don't know, Dennis, would you say I'm goth at all?
You're goth adjacent. You're friends with Kate.
And Jen.
Yeah.
Jen, big time goth. Like,
Yeah.
I have several friends who are tangential at some point in their lives to the goth scene in Philadelphia and, just in general.
Yeah.
And I have an appreciation both for goth as an aesthetic and as a musical genre. And, but I was a little too young, right?
Yeah.
And a little too living out in the country, not near anybody. And
Were you in a Skinny Puppy?
I actually do have a Skinny Puppy CD somewhere.
There you go.
But, I remember a trip to the UK I took when I was like 22, maybe. And I just listened to Peter Murphy, like 2 Peter Murphy CDs on repeat the whole time. So, like, yeah, as I wandered like museums and whatnot. So, like, that's pretty, goth adjacent, right?
And speaking of, so the band was excited to be in the movie. I was reading a story about this.
Yeah.
And then they get the final cut. And it's like the rest of the band was like, well, there's my knee. There's my
fair.
elbow. It's just Peter Murphy, really.
It really
just bouncing
is.
around on a cage thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if I was the rest of the band, I'd be a bit like, hey, come on, man. But, like, this ended up being the video for Bela Lugosi's Dead, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I think Jen was telling me that.
Huh.
So if you listen to last week's episode with Michelle and Jen, they also went to see this movie with us this week. So
Yeah.
they weren't up for doing the episode just because of when we can record. But yeah, they were there with us, and I think one of them said, "Oh yeah, this was also like became the music video for that song," which I've never actually seen, but of course I know the song. And as I said, like, yeah, my first instinct is this is kind of obvious. Yeah, okay, Bela Lugosi's dead, and they're vampires. Okay, but no, I mean, like, look, sometimes you go for what's obvious, but at the time it wasn't obvious.
Yeah, I don't remember boobs in the video.
But there were plenty of boobs in this film.
Yeah.
Yes. This film, which was the directorial debut, also a thing I did not know, of Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Tony Scott is, first of all, sadly not with us anymore. It's actually, it legitimately is a very sad case. This is a guy who, as we were talking, is very much style over substance. And I honestly, I think that serves this movie, right? Because we got to the end of the film and it says screenplay was based on a novel by Whitley Strieber. For those who don't remember, Whitley Strieber also wrote the novel and I guess the screenplay to Wolfen. Now, Wolfen, I actually really like. Wolfen is a good movie. Yeah. This is also a good movie, but not dissimilar to Wolfen in that it is urban erotic horror fantasy, right? There are scenes in this with Susan Sarandon where she's working at the hospital, right? And there's all that kind of clinical stuff, and it's not unlike the stuff with Gregory Hines working in the morgue. And so like there is that whole kind of weird modern clinical stuff going on while you have all these, over the top gothic in Wolfen. They're not werewolves though, but you think they're werewolves.
Yeah.
And go back and listen to our episode on Wolfen, by the way, which I don't know, it's like 2 years ago now, something like that. Anyway, and in this film it's vampires, although they never say the word vampire.
Right.
And I feel like that's something with Whitley Strieber, who, again, is the guy who wrote the book Communion, which has, like, the scary alien on the cover. And I've never read Communion. One of these days I'll do it. It sounds like it's terrible, but I still kind of want to do it.
I mean, the concept behind this is it's a very stripped-down vampire idea. The super strength is still there. Immortality is still there.
Yeah.
Fangs are not there.
No.
Sunlight is not there. I mean, that's not a problem.
Issue.
You can just walk around.
What I like about this is it's as much about what if you were turned by a vampire. The promises they made to you turned out not to be true. What if the vampire lied to you?
Yeah, what if you voted for someone?
And it turns out...
We're in a swing state.
Yeah,
that's all
it
we
sucks
see
here.
anymore.
Oh my God, I hate it.
I would give anything for a car commercial right now.
I would give anything to be taken out by a vampire right now. Seriously. But no, you're right. Sell me some toothpaste. Sell me some deodorant, a car. I can't wait for it to be a December to remember. Just give me something, anything other than these political ads.
A progressive commercial. Come on.
I just want to like walk into the woods and never come out again. It's been terrible. So, you know what? That's going to date the podcast. I don't care.
Yeah.
I truly don't care.
It won't because it'll just start up again.
I know. Oh, God.
In Pennsylvania, that's all we ever get.
Oh, I hate it here. Look, I think you people know how much I love my home state of Pennsylvania, and I hate it here right now. I hate it so much. So the beginning of this film is, it does feel like a music video. And you are in a goth club, and Bauhaus is playing, and they're playing Bela Lugosi's Dead, and David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve pick up a couple and decide to take them back with them, right? So one...
For dinner.
Yeah, basically. So, do you remember when we watched Nick Knight and we complained about how empty the goth club was?
Yeah.
This is such the opposite of that. It feels packed with bodies. It's busy and there's music playing. Like, this is the opposite of what we watched in... I remember when
what? I bet they actually looked at this scene for that. And I bet that was it was
I wouldn't
on their
be
mind.
surprised because the lighting throughout this movie is very cold.
Yeah.
And it feels deliberate. It doesn't just feel cheap. It does feel deliberate. There is a sort of... There's no warm lighting in this at all. This is very 80s, very cold lighting. And it just from jump, like in that club, it is not a bright scene at all. But it works. I like the way that this looks.
Yeah.
It's funny because, I'll complain that movies now just feel very underlit. But this feels underlit in ways that is building a stark contrast when there is light in the room, right?
Yeah, and there is light compared to now.
Oh,
where
God,
there's
yes.
just no light.
Like, you can actually see what's happening on screen
Yeah.
in this film. It's not like it's just dark the whole time.
It's not like that Game of Thrones episode where like is killing going on right now?
Just
we-
terrible.
Do we need like a $5,000 TV to see this?
Yeah, that Wonder Woman 84 movie was a lot like that, had that problem too, if I remember. It was just kind of like, I can't see what's going on, and it's not my television.
That makes it real.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I don't want real. I want a film.
I feel like the start of this is Saving Private Ryan.
Jesus Christ, what does that mean?
I'm serious. Like, I think Saving Private Ryan, everyone was like, oh, realism. Like, this is the real realism. It's like you're really there.
Oh, God, I thought you meant the beginning of this movie was Saving
no.
Private Ryan.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the darkness and grittiness and.
Oh, God. Okay, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so glad, because I'm just like, man, your brain just made a leap I could not follow. But okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm just saying, like, so Saving Private Ryan, like, they have this one scene in the beginning and everyone's all, gaga over it and stuff.
Yeah.
And so immediately I think the next thing was like Pearl Harbor.
Oh, God, that's not
And
good.
they were like, like this battle scene is going to be even more real. And it does as a turkey. But then, and then Gladiator came out and they were praising, like, this is what it was really like to fight in Gladiator Wars.
Made by Tony Scott's brother, Ridley Scott. Yeah.
And it was just a mess.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't. I was like, it's making me seasick or battle sick. I don't know. But it just didn't look like anything. There was no dramatic lighting. And I feel like it's kind of gotten worse since then.
Oh, it's gotten so much worse. Absolutely. And so when you're watching a movie like this, and look, I'm not going to say The Hunger is like a great film. This is not My Dinner with Andre, and it's not. No.
How do we combine these two films?
Well, they're both in New York. They both involve food in a way. There are times where you
man.
think this guy sucks.
Oh man, I want that to happen somehow.
But no, what I mean is, like, I'm not saying this is a great film, right? This
The
is
thing
not.
is, the other guy I could see being into something like that.
What,
like, I
Andre?
met this, no.
Oh, Wallace
yeah,
Shawn?
Yeah, Andre, yeah.
Yeah, Andre
Yeah, I met
Gregory.
this girl, and oh man, she's the best.
This would have been one of his, like, anecdotes in the movie. Absolutely. Oh my God.
Met her in Poland.
She took me back to her place, and then, like, she started drawing my blood, and I thought, okay, this is fine. Yes. Oh my God. And then poor Wally is just sitting there like, oh my God, how am I gonna like heat the apartment this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it also is about being rich.
Oh, it is.
Because it's a vampire movie. They're all
Vampires
rich.
are
Those
always
jerks.
rich. You called it though when you said something like that. There is something about vampires, like, because they're always long lived and they always are somewhat aristocratic, that is absolutely on display here, because we do get these backflashes.
Yeah,
to-
werewolves they have a union. They work at the docks.
Whereas the vampires are the guys who own all of the capital.
Yeah.
Yes, we start with David Bowie is partnered with Catherine Deneuve, and he was enthralled to her sometime in like early modern France. It looks like, they look vaguely like the 18th century, but maybe it's like the late 17th. Who cares? The point is, it's somewhere over in Europe. When we meet them, they both look young, and I mean, Catherine Deneuve looks great here. She's probably 40, I think, but she looks amazing. She still looks amazing. So for those who don't know, Catherine Deneuve, she was a huge actress in like the French New Wave films, and like if you've never seen The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, see The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's amazing. It's fantastic. She's also in oh gosh, I think is it Repulsion?
Mm-hmm.
The terrible guy who married Sharon Tate.
Oh.
Polanski.
Yeah. Polanski,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. The terrible guy who's made films that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, narrow that down.
Oh man. Yeah. So they take people back to their place and they basically eat them. One thing I found interesting is, like, we don't actually see, as you say, like a whole vampire bite, the classic vampire bit, where until we get to later in the film, we just see them pull out these ankh necklaces and then slash people and drink their blood. So it's a slightly different kind of vampire, but it's still definitely a vampire. I mean, look, they're immortals who drink blood. What else are you going to call them? Just because they don't turn into bats and have fangs. And at the same time, they live in Manhattan, and they have an actual house in Manhattan. That's something that's reserved for people in the Gilded Age and characters in a Wes Anderson film. This is not a thing that happens to normal people.
That's a skylight that lets in a bunch of John Woo style birds.
Oh, I thought about that actually. And who influenced who here? Because there is more than one thing in this that I'm just like, yeah, I know that's like from a John Woo thing, but like, who came first? Was it this? Did Tony
I'm sure
Scott?
it's something before this.
Like, that's what I wonder.
know.
Like, I have no idea what the origin point of, like, because let me tell you, man, this movie has a lot of billowing curtains, cold lighting,
Way.
and pigeons
Yeah.
or doves or whatever you want to call them. It's the same animal, you know. And so, like, again, it's what you think of as, you know, John Woo stuff. Here it's Tony Scott, and I'm like, where does this come from? Is there like, is Tony Scott like the origin point, or is it something earlier than him? I have no idea. But it looks great.
It's when doves cry.
And they're crying a lot at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So they pose as a married couple named, what are they, like Bialik or something like that? It's something that sounds like
I
vaguely
forget.
Polish.
Yeah.
They are giving music lessons to a girl who lives across the street. What's her name, Alice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of scenes of this girl, Alice, who is taking these violin lessons, and you have Catherine Deneuve playing the piano and David Bowie on the cello, and you know, so they're kind of living their life. His character is getting jealous. You know, he starts to notice like hair falling out. I forget if it was in the shower or, you know, that's the first place it starts.
His eyes are crinkly.
I don't know. Bowie was probably about the same age as Deneuve here, like probably about 40 or something like that. You know, I'm trying to think of when he was
Actually,
born.
he was 36.
Oh, okay.
I just read this
Okay.
somewhere.
So a little bit-
36 or 38, one of those two.
as far as he knows, he has been turned into a vampire with her, and she promised him back in, you know, ye old France that you will never get old, you will live forever, we are united through all time.
Cocoon.
Wow, do they turn into vampires in Cocoon?
I'm not going to say.
I don't know when we're going to do Cocoon, but it's got to be soon because I really want to find out, you know, do we have a vampire Brimley on our hands?
We already have a thing, Brimley.
How many monsters has he been? So he starts suddenly aging a bit.
Just like a monkey.
Just like a monkey, because at the same time as this is happening, they become aware of a doctor who has been doing research on aging, played by Susan Sarandon, and so she's been on television and she wrote a book, and so we get the secondary plot of her research into progeria and aging, diseases of young people who suddenly, you know, their bodies rapidly age. Sort of a situation like the movie Jack. Don't watch the movie Jack, people. Please, believe me. They become aware of her work, and he becomes really interested because all of a sudden he notices, oh, wait a minute, how am I aging? Why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense. I was promised that this wasn't going to happen. They don't ever say why this happens to him.
But it's happened before. She actually, what is Catherine Deneuve's?
She's Miriam.
She first goes to like the book signing or something.
Well, she saw something on television or something, right? Yeah.
But I think she's trying to stop Bowie's thing.
I don't know if she is.
I don't know.
I'm not entirely convinced that she is trying to stop his aging because she's used to this.
But I think she's wondering if there's some way to.
I disagree with you. I don't think she pursues it all that much because I think she just sees, oh, here's this hot person, I'm going to seduce them. I don't think she cares that much at all. Like, look, here's the thing. I read this film as Catherine Deneuve's character, Miriam. She has a bunch of corpses in the attic.
What?
Every time one of her lovers gets to a certain point, they suddenly rapidly age. They don't die. They can't die, unfortunately. So she puts them into a crate, into essentially like a wooden coffin, and kicks them up into the attic. And this is what's happening to David Bowie. He doesn't know that, or I guess he didn't think it was going to happen to him. He must know that those bodies are up there, obviously, but he didn't think it was ever going to happen to him. And he at one point accuses her that he's going to be replaced by Alice, the girl who is taking the violin lessons, and she's like, no, that's not what's going to happen. And of course, he doesn't really believe that. When she goes to Susan Sarandon, who is on television and talking about this book that she's writing about aging, and earlier in the film, we get this whole sequence of like her research, and she has her boyfriend played by Cliff DeYoung, this guy Tom. They're both researchers at a clinic in Manhattan. And that's like the stuff that actually reminded me of Wolfen a bit, where you had like that weird kind of like weird science bent to everything. They were researching on monkeys, and this one monkey just goes crazy, and like suddenly he's very old for a monkey, and he goes nuts and starts like eating other monkeys, and then rapidly ages and dies and decomposes within like 5 minutes.
So I assume he's a vampire monkey.
Sure.
But like, why?
Well,
it's like
you're trying to find why in the brain of Whitley Strieber, and you're not going to.
Yeah.
Sometimes just weird stuff happens. Whitley Strieber is very much like the model for Garth Marenghi. No, I'm dead serious. Like this is not terror. Like this is much better production values than like Garth Marenghi, but this is not that dissimilar.
yeah. It's obviously he's like the monkey is like connected to David Bowie somehow. Like it's
Thematically. Like not
but
in
like,
reality.
But
in reality. What does that mean?
I have no idea why this happens, but it's it is a good mood. It's like
Dude,
you see the monkey wigging out, and then you see Bowie there smoldering, and
because he goes to the clinic.
Because inside he's wigging out.
Yeah, this movie
Bowie
is.
Way.
This movie is all vibes,
yeah.
which is fine. Look, I appreciate that this is. Look, don't go looking into this for logic.
We all have our inner monkey that's wigging out in a cage somewhere.
God, I know I do. Bowie goes to the clinic to find out, like, why am I aging? Can you stop this? You've been doing all this research. What is going on? And she kind of, pushes him off because she's just like, oh, it's just some weirdo. But he rapidly ages in the waiting room. In the 2 hours that he's there, he goes from a guy who looks, just like around 40 to suddenly looking like he's 80. Just like, wait a minute, this is actually like a weird case, and I want to like follow up on this because of my research. And he just has had enough, and he goes back to the house that he has in Manhattan. And the young girl who's been taking the lessons shows up, and at this point he looks like he's like a 90-year-old man. The girl doesn't recognize him at all and assumes that, oh, you must be John's father, John being his character. So we have this scene of her doing her lesson for him and playing music and whatnot, and then all of a sudden I guess he assumes that if I kill her and drink her blood, I'll be able to be young again, and so he attempts that, and of course it doesn't work. He burns the body, which is what they've been doing with the bodies that they've been feeding on. They burn it in the furnace at the basement of this house. Miriam, Catherine Deneuve, shows back up again. It's like, hey, I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah, you're going to be old. I know I promised this wouldn't happen, but, it does.
I kind of lie.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's all about the lie. And so here's the thing. I assume her lovers start aging because she gets bored with them. Because I got the feeling that opening scene of them at the club, we pick up a couple, we feast on them, we burn them. I have a feeling this has gotten so routine for her. She's bored.
Yeah.
He makes the wrong assumption that she's interested in the little girl in a, I guess, Interview with a Vampire sort of way.
Yeah.
Which I have to admit, I've never seen Interview with a Vampire, and I think we should probably cover it, even though I know that's the 90s. But
Sure. Yeah. You don't follow the rules.
no, I don't. Our last episode was a Rankin Bass special from 1967. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we try to keep to the 80s, and I like keeping to the 80s because I like exploring the aesthetics. And this is a movie that is nothing but aesthetics. But I don't know. Sometimes you want to stretch out. But anyway, you think that it's going to be like that kind of Interview with a Vampire. We're going to take the girl, and like, she's actually not interested in the girl at all. The girl's just a girl. And so,
I don't know. I think she was.
do you really?
Yeah. I think she was grooming her. I don't know. I think that's just how she rolls.
Well, I mean, she does nothing but groom people, obviously. Yeah. I mean, she is a predator, right? As unbelievably attractive as Catherine Deneuve is in this film, she is a bad person.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel like I have to say that. He kills her, and he has to admit to Miriam what he's done, and they burn the body, and then he is rapidly deteriorating, and so she takes him up to the top floor of their building, puts him under... the sun roof, the skylight,
filled with doves.
Skylight filled with doves. And then she's just like, sorry, buddy, but I got to put you in the box.
Yeah.
You're going to go and hang out with my other dead lovers.
And so at this point, I should point out, like, this was all, he wanted to film in New York, but it was all filmed in London, which is probably
really?
good.
Because a lot of this was, I thought, filmed in New York.
It looks like New York, but I think maybe the establishing shots were New York. But
so it's all second unit?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, man, they did a really good job because a lot of this stuff...
I assume it was somewhere near the Doctor Who studios because those faces of the old people, they just look like a bunch of Davroses from
Oh,
Doctor
you're right.
Who.
You're absolutely right. Especially David Bowie's makeup at the end. When he's aging in the doctor's office and he's like, that stuff looks really good, but once he's like the really old man, he does look like Davros.
Yeah, he's about to detonate the reality bomb.
So yeah, she boxes him up, and at that time, she turns her attention to Susan Sarandon. Sarah wanted to follow up on John, David Bowie, having been there, and like, what is this case? And so when she goes to the house, she meets Miriam, and John is just, he's like, he's in Switzerland. I don't know. I know he's sick. It's real sad. You want to come in and have a drink?
Yeah.
And so then we get, 15 minutes of, okay, like, are you into me? I don't know if you're into me. Like, okay, like, we're going to hang out here and drink, but like, we're kind of throwing signals. And man, this is classic lesbian stuff, man, in that you don't know if like the other person's actually gay or not. So
we've seen this in Morgan Le Fay.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay, so for those of you who are not subscribed to Hollywood Avalon, we covered a French film called Girl Slaves of Morgana Le Fay, which is a terrible title, but it's actually a really good movie.
His heart was in the right place.
It's not a dissimilar film in that follows Morgan Le Fay seducing young women to her island where she's promising eternal youth and all the rest of that. And it's kind of a similar thing that Miriam is doing here. Right? Because when she gets tired of you, she will turn you into an old woman who is like down in the dungeons.
And that movie is considered like part of a bunch of vampire lesbian films that were out at the same time.
Yeah, which is a thing. And I mean, apparently like vampire lesbians goes back to the beginnings of vampire lore. And like you can tie this to like actual medieval story of like, was it like Elizabeth de Bathory? Do you know about her?
I think so.
Yeah, she was like,
heard.
I don't know if she was Czech or something like, Middle to Eastern Europe, where she would bathe in the blood of young virgins and stuff, and in order to retain like eternal youth and all that stuff. And like this is straight out of like the Middle Ages. And so yeah, the Girl Slaves of Morgana Le Fay is not a dissimilar film to this, and they're both working in what is actually like kind of an old trope.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is actually a really good version of the same kind of story. And also that movie, the French movie it's actually a really good kind of folk horror version of that story. Yeah. And if Internet Archive is back up again when you hear this, which it may not be, which is a whole other, again, I don't want to talk, current events, but yeesh, the fact that went down is horrible. But if you can find a copy of that movie, it is worth seeing. And also then subscribe to our Patreon and hear us talk about it, because it's great. But the movie's great. Is the Patreon great? I don't know. But we get, a whole sequence of Miriam seducing Sarah to the point where Sarah is even quoting The Graduate, which was fun. She's doing the so-called bisexual sitting position. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, that's like a whole... It's
That's
an
a
internet thing. It's
Yeah.
an internet thing. With the way that she's sitting on the chair is, I don't know. It's kind of like how there's bisexual lighting, and a lot of that stuff is just millennials like creating culture where there isn't one. But whatever. The point is, it does eventually lead to something.
But apparently the song that she's playing, Lakme, which is some...
It's a classical piece. You
Yeah.
guys, you've all heard it. At the very least, if you remember the 90s, it was used in British Airways commercials. But trust me, you've heard Lakme, this classical piece. It's very famous.
According to Susan Sarandon, it was also played when she was doing the lemons on her boobs scene in Atlantic City.
You know what? I did not make that connection at all.
And she said, I guess that song is the theme song of my boobs.
Hey, look, if boobs have to have a theme song, that's a very good one to have.
It could be Joe Walsh. Who knows?
Oh, God. She ends up seducing her and and so Miriam has Sarah actually drink her blood and essentially enthralls her in the same way that she had enthralled John, David Bowie. And then essentially it becomes like almost a metaphor for being a junkie. It's not even almost a metaphor. She's literally like,
Someone calls her a junkie.
Yes.
At some point.
So her boyfriend this whole time, Tom, is out looking for her because she's been gone for 3.5 hours. Look, that's not a very long period. I realize they work together and they live together. Look, you and I work and live together. If I'm gone for 3.5 hours, are you really freaking out?
I don't know.
I went to the grocery store. okay, I went to the grocery store and Old Navy. What? I needed shirts.
Right.
Anyway. No, I mean, it is, this is the part of the film where things kind of are narratively convenient, right? We don't know what's causing the animal to rapidly age, but it does. She is going through these weird transformations. So they take her blood and like, oh, there's like non-human blood in your blood now. It's like, first of all, how do you know it's non-human blood? You know, explain how that works. Like, I don't even know if that's a thing. Like, I guess that must be a thing just because there are certain proteins that wouldn't like, otherwise we would just get blood transfusions from pigs or something, but that still sounds weird, right? When they show it in a film.
Yeah.
She's like going through these changes. Like they try to go out to dinner and she's obviously distracted and isn't really wanting to eat anything. And he is getting like both worried but also angry with her because it's almost like he thinks that she's cheating on him even though he never says that exactly.
Yeah,
and
I think he just feels it.
He feels it without actually knowing what it would mean that she had cheated on him because first of all, I don't think it occurs to him that it would not be a guy. And also, it's a short period of time, but he's so agitated.
I think she's acting so differently, too, and that's
Sure.
what he's reacting to.
She goes missing.
He might not be the best guy.
He does not come across terribly
He might
great.
be, might be tasty, who knows, but...
Eventually, he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she goes and runs off to Miriam's house and is trying to figure out what's going on with herself, but essentially she goes into what it looks almost like withdrawal.
Yeah.
She's sweaty and she's shaking and all that stuff, and so Tom goes and tries to find her. At one point, she goes to a phone booth because she's like not in contact with him. Like,
right.
There's like a whole thing. She goes to a phone booth. She's freaking out because she can't get a hold of him, and she's assaulted by 2 street thugs.
Yeah.
Dennis, I almost jumped out of my seat.
We both did.
Yes, because the street thugs in question are Willem Dafoe and John Pankow.
Yeah.
Both of whom, of course, Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
And this is like a year before Streets of Fire.
I'm assuming it's the same character.
It looks like the same character. Like, it is a blink and you miss it scene, right?
I don't think he's even on screen for a second.
No, it's less
like
than
so
a second.
fast. We could tell right away it's him because
It's so
the
weird.
cheapos and everything. He looks weird, but like.
Dennis, it was the eeriest moment in this entire film when I'm just like, wait a minute, that's Willem Dafoe.
That's Norman Osborn.
That's Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm somewhat of a bit of a junkie myself.
So, and John Pankow, of course, if you remember To Live and Die in L.A., he is the partner of the main dude who, in the end takes over the,
Yeah.
yes. And of course he was on like Mad About You, and he's done a lot of stuff, but that's,
He has kind of a Paul Reiser vibe about him.
Did you ever watch Mad About You?
No.
You're fine, but yes. Did you not watch television in the 90s?
Not much.
We are so different.
Yeah.
I did nothing but watch television in the 90s.
Yeah, I kind of skipped a chunk.
Yeah. So you weren't there for Must See TV?
No.
You missed,
I missed
the night of the great crossovers?
Mm.
When all the shows had blackouts except for Seinfeld, who was just like not into it?
Huh.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh.
For me, it was the 80s. Like, I watched, Cheers and
Right.
Night Court and Family Ties and Cosby.
Because I am almost a decade younger than you.
Yeah.
Just imagine that kid. Now it's the 90s, and it's like Seinfeld and Friends and Mad About You and, whatever other thing they throw in there because they didn't know what else to put on. Sometimes it was The Single Guy, which I think is what it was at that. Anyway, the point is, the phone booth scene, it's not at all important to the film at all, but it was a real, oh my God. Yeah. So yes, she ends up at the house, and Miriam is like, "Oh, I'm going to help you through your whole transition, and this is fine, and you're going to become like one with me." And the whole time we're watching this, we're just like, "Well, we know she's lying because of what's happened." But the thing is, Sarah already knows she's lying. I am not going to be forever young. Like, I might go through this entire transition, but I know that, I get the feeling. Here's the thing. I get the feeling, and the thing is, like, the film gets muddled at this point as to who knows what, right? I get the feeling that she's just like, I'm not in for this. I assume that she knows that whatever has happened to John, he's not like in a clinic in Switzerland. This is nonsense. I'm dealing with a vampire. I don't necessarily want to be enthralled to her. Okay, now you are looking at me skeptically. How did you read this?
The way I read it, I feel like Miriam is getting sloppy.
Yes, that's true.
Like, I think that she's kind of bothered by Bowie getting older so fast.
I don't think she is.
Not so much she cares for him.
Yeah.
Whatever. But, like, I think she's like, things aren't working like they normally do. Why is that? Like, everybody's worried about their own age. And it's like the whole movie is about that. But,
Well, I mean, to some extent, it's kind of boomers realizing that they're getting older.
yeah.
I mean, that is kind of what this movie is.
They don't have the big chill to look at yet.
Oh, you know what? That's like, what, a year away?
I know.
Or maybe it's the same year?
If she had just hung on, she could have watched that and felt better.
No, I do think there is something in here about boomers suddenly aging and realizing, oh, we're about to hit middle age. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, basically, this is not that long before 30-something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a couple years, but it's part of that whole same sort of. You mentioned the big chill, and it's like that whole
I actively avoided that show, by the way,
30-something is fine.
for the rest of my life.
30-something is a totally fine TV show that the same people made My So-Called Life.
Yeah.
Shut up. It's self-indulgent, but it is actually good.
All right.
Anyway, my point being, yes, this is definitely a thing about baby boomers like realizing, oh, we're getting older.
While trying to fit in with the young people at the club.
Yes, no, absolutely. And who hasn't been in that situation?
Yeah.
She takes the Ankh pendant, which has been like prominent through the whole
Wait,
thing.
we haven't talked about the young Republican.
Okay, so she
thing.
kills like several people. Like one guy, he looks like Patrick Bateman. It's fine.
Yeah, and then she kills her husband or boyfriend.
While Sarah is at Miriam's house, Miriam acquires some guys to kill. So one is a guy who kind of is it's a yuppie.
Yeah.
And so they eat him, and that's fine.
It's like oh, now this is what we want.
Well-
just do this all the time.
Now you're getting into like eating Raoul territory, actually, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
that'd be great. But if it was an entire film of like lesbian vampires killing men, I'd be down for it. Her boyfriend Tom does show up, and Miriam does have him killed, and then they do devour him. One quick.
It's implied. We don't see.
Yeah, we never see it
yeah.
happen. But one thing I do want to mention, though, by the way, so her boyfriend is played by Cliff DeYoung,
Yeah.
and the only reason I bring that up is Cliff DeYoung, if you remember, played Brad in Shock Treatment.
Oh yeah.
And of
And
course,
Susan,
Susan Sarandon was Janet in Rocky Horror. So they do finally meet in a way, in a very weird way. They kill him and suck his blood, but she's still like going through all like kind of the weird withdrawal and everything. And eventually, she's just like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this." So she pulls out the Ankh pendant and stabs herself.
Yeah.
And this is where the movie gets muddled.
Yep.
Right? So she stabs herself, and this causes Miriam to obviously to freak out, but also it causes all of her decaying lovers to rise out of their coffins and and hunt her down. So led by David Bowie.
Yeah. Davros.
Yeah, yes. They chase her through the house.
Well, Miriam takes Sarah up to the circle of pigeons, and it always does this in
Skylight.
slow motion. There's like curtains and stuff like that. It's like there's something magical about this circle of pigeons that they haven't explained.
Which, here's the thing. I don't want the movie to explain this stuff
Yeah.
to me. This is exactly how I want films to be. I don't want over-explanation. This is purely a vibes-based movie, and I love the fact that it is a vibes-based movie. I don't want more than this.
Have you changed in this? Have you?
Yes.
Were you okay?
Yeah, no,
You were
no.
not originally that way.
For this film or in general?
In general.
In general, yes, I've changed.
Okay.
I've changed because, frankly, culture got too explainy,
Yeah.
and I got tired of it.
Okay.
And like, they destroyed the mystery of things.
Yeah.
And I'm a real let the mystery be girl now.
All right.
So, yeah. No,
Cool.
I have changed.
Yeah.
The corpses rise and they chase her around the house because the spell has been broken, I guess. Her power has been overthrown.
Things didn't go like she wanted, so she dies.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't die.
Well, she doesn't die. That's the
Yeah.
thing. So she gets chased through the house, and starts rapidly aging herself now that Sarah has given back the gift, shall we say. You know, like, I don't want to be your thrall. I don't want to be part of this. If the film had just ended there, yes, it would be, like, I don't know. I don't think that's a downer ending. I think that's actually a pretty cool ending. In fact, it felt narratively satisfying.
That's what Susan Sarandon thought it was going to be. She played it like, I don't want to be an addict. I'm just going to off myself.
Yeah. It's great. Like, it works really well. It's a pretty cool scene.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you cut to London, and there is Susan Sarandon with two other people looking out over a balcony, and you can hear Miriam in a box.
Because the studio wanted a sequel.
What sequel? What would you sequelize here? No, there's nothing to sequelize. That's a terrible idea.
Hungrier.
God. So yeah, like, if you took off the last, minute of this film, it'd be perfect.
Mm-hmm. It'd be
perfect.
good.
It'd be narratively satisfying.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this extra minute ruins the film, but it's unnecessary. It doesn't work. I don't like it. It's dumb. It's confusing.
It's very confusing. Like I didn't know what happened. I'm like, wait, is this like in her mind or what's going on here?
I was very confused.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the very end of the film is her on a balcony just looking over London and like.
But also like Wolfen was kind of
confused
at the time.
Deeply confused.
Yeah.
I have no idea how the Whitley Strieber book actually ends. I don't think it ends with this. As you're saying, this sounds like a studio note.
Yeah.
It's a unnecessary ending. So let's ignore it and just say, the vampire queen is dead. That's all we need. Otherwise, this is fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
There is decent soft eroticism, I guess.
Yeah. Softcore.
It isn't even softcore, because when you think of softcore on like cable, that's a bit more than what this is. This is just eroticism.
Well, no, like softcore on cable was boobs.
That's true, yeah.
It was just boobs in any form. It could be,
there is at least
walking
one
around.
butt in this.
Yeah.
It has a certain something that a lot of movies right now just don't have.
Yeah.
And part of that is style. It has an aesthetic. It is that interesting melding of gothic and what would you say? It's like that way that the 80s would repurpose fashions from the 40s for women. Mm-hmm. The big shoulder pads and
she definitely has the Rachel look from Blade Runner.
Yes, yes, Blade Runner is a good pull, and not just obviously, but it is that kind of repurposing of 1940s fashions that you saw in the 80s, and honestly, like that was organically out there, like that was a thing, and that's on display here, but also mixed in with like some of the goth stuff.
I thought some of the editing, especially in that first sequence, was a little bit like Liquid Sky.
Yes,
where it's just like bright lights, it's just 80s to the max, and like you're completely confused as to what's going on, like voices are going on, and it has nothing to do with what you're seeing, and
yeah,
it's like deliberately trying to make you confused and like as if you were actually taking pills at the club or something. Like, it's way more polished than Liquid Sky.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. This is somewhere between like a Liquid Sky and a Wolfen and
or Highlander. Highlander has the exact same blowing like curtains and
very much music video aesthetics.
Yeah.
Look, if you like that and you haven't seen this, dude, this is worth checking out.
Like, there's parts of this that could easily be a Stevie Nicks video.
As far as the music goes, like a lot of it is mostly classical pieces. There is just like that one, the opening with Bauhaus, but other than that, the music is very, not contemporary, but that fits vampires. So that was The Hunger, starring Catherine Deneuve, David Bowie, Susan Sarandon, Cliff DeYoung, Beth Ehlers, Dan Hedaya. I didn't even talk about Dan Hedaya as the police detective who is trying to find the missing young girl. But so he's in this. And yeah, and then just like other people show up, as we said, Bauhaus. Oh, Bessie Love. Bessie Love is in this in the book signing scene with Susan Sarandon. She's at the bookstore. She's signing her books. Bessie Love, for those who don't know, she had a career that went all the way back to the silent era. This is her last film appearance. She actually was in the second movie to ever win Best Oscar, Broadway Melody of 1929, which is not a good film, and she's the only good thing in that movie. There's a reason why she had a career, and whatever the other girl was, Anita Page went off and just became Mussolini's girlfriend, which is a whole thing that we talk about in our...
I don't know if she did. I thought he just kept writing to her.
I thought she was like her... Yeah, I don't know. I kind of thought she was like his lover or something at one point. He had more than one. Yeah. We actually, before we did this show, we were trying to do a podcast about Oscar winners, and so we watched Broadway Melody of 29, and yeah, that's not a great movie, but
it was okay.
Yeah, no, it's not. But Bessie Love, she was in that, and she is in this. And as we also brought up, Willem Dafoe shows up, and John Pankow, and that was just kind of a nice surprise. And yeah, I can't think of anybody else.
Peter Murphy.
Well, yes. Written by James Costigan, Michael Thomas, and from the Whitley Strieber novel, and of course directed by Tony Scott. All right. You can follow us on social media. We're Mary VS Movies on all of your major platforms. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Who knows how long that website will even be around. We'll see how things are going. But we're on Blue Sky, Mastodon, Threads, Instagram, TikTok. We have TikTok, and we have Reggie, who does videos over there. Reggie is our puppet mascot. And I gotta do a Reggie video for this. Yeah, that'll be fun. And where else are we? Yeah, I guess those are the big ones. We are on Tumblr, but I'm having trouble getting any posts onto Tumblr right now. That's purely an app problem, so I'm working on that. But we are on Tumblr, where it's Mary versus the movies. We are on all of your major platforms. Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show, and we would appreciate it if you did. We're on, actually, YouTube, finally. We're finally on there. So you can listen to us through that, if that's how you access, podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Overcast, wherever you can plug an RSS feed in, you can get us, because we are syndicated through Libsyn. We also have a Patreon where you can help support the show for $3 a month. Because believe it or not, this costs money. We paid money to go see this movie. We pay money to rent movies. We pay money for the server. We pay money for our Zoom account to have guests. So if in order to support the show, because if you have noticed, we do not have ads. Although, to be honest, in the world of podcasting, ads are getting kind of scarce anyway. So we're probably better off that we never started off that way anyway. Then again, this isn't like our day job, but this does take a lot of time and labor, so we really appreciate it for you to help support the show. But in exchange for doing that, for signing up at patreon.com/MaryVSMovies, you get access to a whole second show, Hollywood Avalon, where we watch Arthurian movies, and that is everything from Indiana Jones' Last Crusade to The Kid Who Would Be King to First Night to at the end of this month will be Army of Darkness. That's right. Army of Darkness is Arthurian. So yes, sign up for that and listen to us talk about movies that have something to do with King Arthur, the Holy Grail, Morgan Le Fay. We brought up Morgan Le Fay in this episode. Like all of that stuff. We did The Fisher King.
Someday we'll see The Questing Beast.
Sure. Yes, we did The Fisher King. We did Night Riders. Night Riders is a great movie by George Romero that you should totally go and see if you have not. We cover all of that kind of stuff. So Bugs Bunny cartoons, whatever. That's, again, patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. All right, next week, I think we're going to do a movie that I've wanted to do for a very long time. I've wanted to see for a very long time. I've never seen, and my entire frame of reference for it is an old, very, very old episode of the podcast We Hate Movies, which I am a huge fan of, and obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this show. If you go back and listen to We Hate Movies, they have an episode on the movie Halloween 3. Now, I have seen Halloween. I do love John Carpenter.
Have you seen Halloween 2?
I have not seen Halloween 2.
Oh.
Have you?
I did. I don't remember. I only remember the very, very, very beginning.
Well, look, there's been a whole bunch of Halloween movies, but this movie, Halloween 3, has nothing to do with any of them, and that's what interests me. I know a little bit about that movie, but I've never actually sat and watched it, so I'm excited to watch Halloween 3, which, if everything goes well, will come out on Halloween night. Isn't that exciting?
It is exciting.
Yes. So next episode, if everything goes right, will be Halloween 3. So, until next time.
She's that kind of woman. She's European.